marketing and fan engagement, Brad Bobo. And Matt Stolz is the voice of the Red Wolves. I know that you Red Wolf fans have heard Matt Stolz many times. Gentlemen, thanks for joining us today. Welcome to A-State Connections.
Great to be here.
Very good. So homecoming, Brad, tell us about Saturday. Big week here at Arkansas State.
That's the thing, is that homecoming's a big week, and even that's probably shortchanging it because of the amount of work a lot of people put into it, more so on campus. Like, we really, by and large, in our part of it, we can pretty much treat it like a regular football game with just a couple of little wrinkles, but it's a fun week on campus, and those stuff's been going on all week. And obviously a big week and weekend for the Alumni Association, too, celebrating its 100th anniversary. So looking forward to seeing the rest of those festivities unfold and getting everybody in the stadium Saturday night.
Matt, tell us about what it's like doing homecoming on the air. You're the voice of the Red Wolves for now 20 years. Congratulations on that, by the way.
Well, thank you very much.
And we'll talk about that here in just a little bit, but your thoughts on what homecoming is like when you're broadcasting a homecoming game.
Well, it's exciting for everyone on campus, but it's particularly exciting this year because you go back to the first two home games and the kind of atmosphere that has been created. You go back to the UCA and Tulsa games, and one thing that we've been able to do, and Brad and his marketing team have done a great job at trying to generate excitement once again around the football games. It's been a fun atmosphere. And one thing Coach Jones actually mentioned last night during our radio show was the fact that our attendance is up 22% this year from a year ago. So I think that says a lot about just the interest around campus, but to be home and to have a great weather forecast coming up for Saturday and just everything that has kind of led up to this game on Saturday night, I think is exciting.
It's going to be a great time, a great event for sure, and the weather is going to be perfect. Couldn't ask for better weather for that, for the game.
Yeah,
it's going to be a lot of fun.
I mean, the only complaint people are going to have is that it might be too hot for some people during the day, and so we'll take it. It's funny, 2 years ago, which was my first year in my current position, the weather was absolutely terrible. So there was something bad every home game.
Yeah. Last
year was almost the exact opposite. And it's funny, last year I remember, honestly, our hottest home game of the year last year was homecoming. And I think if that's what we're dealing with Saturday, sign me up. I can deal with it being a little too warm for people during the afternoon because by 6 o'clock at kickoff, it's going to be great.
It'll be fantastic. It'll be a great night for football. Matt, I wanted to welcome you in and talk to you a little bit about the 20 years because that's a huge accomplishment to be able to do that. And I want to go back for just a little bit about how did you decide that's something that you wanted to do? Did you always want to be someone who would call games on the radio, for TV, and other areas?
Yes, is the short answer to that question. But yeah, when I was 8 years old, I decided I wanted to be a sportscaster. And I probably wasn't very smart in choosing any kind of, not choosing any kind of backup options because I never considered doing anything else outside of being a sportscaster. But yeah, I grew up in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, and I would listen on a transistor radio every night to Texas Rangers games. And I remember just how that transformed me and my life and how it took me out to the ballpark every single night just through a description over the radio. And I kind of wanted to do the same thing when I grew up. And fortunately, I've been able to do just that and turn this into a really fun career here at Arkansas State. But yes, it's all I've ever wanted to do.
When I think about broadcasters, when I first got into radio, and this was 94, so I did radio for 30 years before I started doing this, I remember listening to the Cardinal games. We'd run them on the small station in Osceola. It was an AM station. And you had Jack Buck and you had Joe Buck and Mike Shannon, at that time. And you think about Vince Scully and you think about all of these legendary broadcasters in that. Was there a broadcaster that you've kind of emulated after? Some people would also maybe say Paul Eels and some others and that, but is there someone that's kind of really you've modeled your style after and just really was an inspiration to you?
Well, first off, my favorite announcers have always been baseball broadcasters because I believe that they're the best storytellers. They really do a great job at painting a picture and telling that story, taking you to the ballpark. And I think one thing that I always tried to do was incorporate that storytelling aspect into my broadcast. There's always storylines that you want to resort back to throughout the course of a game broadcast, and nobody was better at that than Eric Nadel of the Texas Rangers. I mentioned listening to him growing up. He's been their voice for my entire life. He's in the Hall of Fame and still doing their games now. So, yeah, that was kind of the guy for me.
You still try and find those games and listen to them as much as you can?
As much as I can.
Right. So, Brad, you've done some play-by-play and all
A
that
lot,
stuff.
yeah.
You've done a little bit of that too. Let's not ignore you.
Well, no, I
and
mean,
all
it was
that.
it's been a similar and then kind of different experience for me too. I was late to the game. It was 16 when I knew that what I was going to do instead of 8. But really, like the role I'm in now is sort of a diversion from the path, to be honest with you. But my foot in the door at Arkansas State in any kind of way was through broadcasting and getting involved in 2003. What I started out was going to be calling women's basketball and baseball for an AM station in Paragould, KDRS AM, and then kind of right before football season started, added traveling with football as sort of an on-site producer and engineer, which wasn't part of the plan. But that's where my involvement with Arkansas State, beyond being an alum, started. From there, it kind of led to 1 and now 2 stints on staff. But at no point did I get in this thinking I'm going to work in college athletics.
Yeah,
it was always about being a broadcaster.
Yeah, and so with that, I mean, you've done very well, transitioning over to college athletics and all that stuff.
That's debatable. But what I've been is, in a field, where Matt said, he grew up in Dallas, Fort Worth. And it's a field where you got to be willing to kind of pack up and go where the work is. And I would have been willing. You kind of know that's what you signed up for, but then it's worked out in a way where I've been able to make an entire career and never leave home. I grew up 20 minutes off this campus, graduated from Arkansas State, and been very, very blessed to get to do all this without ever having to really change my address much.
I will tell you that when I was in radio and worked at East Arkansas Broadcasters, a lot of years down in Stuttgart, Arkansas, I attempted, and I'm going to put that in quotes, attempted to do some play-by-play. And I'll be honest with you, I was terrible at it. I was terrible. So the thing, because it's not easy. I mean, you listen to how the best do it, and they make it sound like anyone could do it, and it's not easy. It's almost like I've said you have to split your brain in thirds or whatever. It's just like, tell us about what goes into, because I know, Matt, you're not only doing football, you do football, basketball, baseball, 3 different sports, 3 different styles of being able to call. How do you do that?
Well, I'll get to that. I will say I've always admired the way Brad has shown a versatility that not many people have. He is very good at play-by-play. He's done color commentary before. He's been really, really good as a sideline reporter, and he's done that in some of our other sports as well, whether it be volleyball or soccer or whatever, and some of the things that I haven't done in the past. But I think it is a change of pace going from football to basketball to baseball. To answer your question, they're 3 totally different styles. And football, you do have that broadcast team with a color analyst and a sideline reporter, and you're trying to find that balance and work in some storytelling at the same time. You've got to keep up with the pace of play and be able to give great detail as far as what's happening on the field. Basketball is nonstop action. There's not as big of an opportunity to incorporate that storytelling aspect to the game. You're just constantly describing what's happening on the court. And then baseball, it's all about pacing. The very best broadcasters, I think, as I mentioned earlier,
Yeah.
are baseball broadcasters because they can describe so well, so fluidly what's happening on the field, but they're talking about all the other things surrounding the game and transporting you to the ballpark on any particular night and kind of putting you in the stands with them. And that's the thing that I admire, the fact that during baseball you can slow it down a little bit, tell stories, and at the same time be able to describe what's happening on the field.
Then the new kind of wrinkle in all this of late is the increased amount of TV games we do, and so I've gotten to spend a lot of time on that side of it. At one point, kind of before I came back on staff, was basically because we're doing TV for everything, and then with my gig now, I kind of trimmed that down to women's basketball and baseball. But it's amazing to me is that they are essentially, I consider them two completely different skill sets, doing TV and doing radio. Because like with radio, what he's saying is that he's responsible for painting the entire picture. The listener only has what he's given them, and so the whole thing's on him. Where with TV, for me, like I don't have to tell every move everybody's making because you can see it. And so, kind of in between my two stints on staff, I went and did a sports talk show for 9 years where I just wanted to sit around and interview people. So I almost get to now just move that over to doing TV games, and pretty much whether they know it or not, I'm just interviewing my color person. And so, like, my approach to doing a TV game, I've told people, to me, like, because it's not on me to paint the whole picture, I view myself as an offensive lineman, saying, like, I want the feedback at the end of one of those TV broadcasts to be somebody to watch it and go, golly, that color person knew what they were talking about. I just want to set them up and let them get the stats. Offensive lineman, let the color person be the quarterback and be the person they're talking about at the end of the night, knowing that we kind of did the dirty work.
There you go. Associate Athletic Director of Marketing and Fan Engagement, Brad Bobo, and Matt Stolz, the voice of the Red Wolves, joining us here. We'll come back with the second segment of the show right after this.
I think one of the things I learned at Arkansas State was life is 10% of what happens to you, 90% of how you respond to it, and that's just something that I live by.
A-State is home, and they're going to treat you like you're a part of the family.
Red Wolf Radio is a student-led organization at Arkansas State University wanting to hear your takes on pop culture, music, the news, and college life. Just about anything you can think of. Located in the Education and Communications building on campus, we are always looking for more volunteers. So if you're an Arkansas State University student, no matter the major, and this is something that interests you, shoot us an email at redwolfradio@astate.edu. That's redwolfradio@astate.edu. Let them hear you howl.
Live from the ASU-TV studios in the School of Media and Journalism, this is A-State Connections. And welcome back to A-State Connections on ASU-TV. I'm Jonathan Reeves. Today we're continuing our conversation with Brad Bobo and Matt Stolz, talking about everything Arkansas State University broadcasting, and especially the play-by-play stuff. Gentlemen, thank you once again. Appreciate it for coming back here on A-State Connections. And Matt, you need to come back. This is, you need to definitely come back, and anytime you want to come back on the show, we'd love to have you. So.
Well,
it's been a lot of fun.
I love being here, number one. I love the set, by the way. This is fantastic.
Yeah, it's something that the students, the faculty, and others kind of collaborated together. The students kind of decided this is what they want. Faculty makes it happen. So it's really worked out well. So yeah, we love the set, and love the students, and we're going to give a shout out to the students that are here running
Absolutely.
everything because they do a fantastic job. So one of the things I wanted to ask you about with this, what's the hardest part of doing play-by-play and all of that and trying to keep everything going, especially with a fast-moving sport like football, basketball? What's the most challenging part of the job?
You know, I think just the preparation part of it, and that really is the key part of doing a broadcast, because if I'm prepared going into, say, a football game on a Saturday, I've already done the hard part. I've done the preparation process. People ask sometimes, well, are you nervous when you go on the air? Well, I've been doing it a really long time, so no, I'm not nervous, but I'm also not nervous because I know I'm prepared going in. And when you get the preparation done throughout the course of the week, you know what is going to be happening on the field. You've talked to the coaches, you've watched practice throughout the week, you know what's going on leading up to the game, and I think there's a comfortability at that point when you go on the air. But yeah, the preparation process, I think, is the most difficult part, just because it's the most tedious part.
Sure.
At the same time, it's something that I enjoy, especially during the course of football season.
But I'll say that's what sets him apart. Like his prep is next level, and I don't try to read any of it because handwriting is absolutely horrible. But
I'm the only one that has to be able to read it.
that's right. I mean, it's just like his own personal shorthand, maybe. But it's always been interesting to watch that from him. But the prep work he puts into those broadcasts, I'd say, is unmatched.
For one football game, and this is probably even more with basketball because you've got like a couple games a week that's going on, how much prep goes into all that? I mean, how much time would you spend prepping for a game?
Well, it's a week-long process, and I think, you know, one thing that I do, and I know a lot of other broadcasters do this as well, although we do it in different ways, is we're going to build our own charts for a game. The players are going to be listed on the charts, offense, defense for both teams, some stats, some information that we want to make sure we mention during the course of the broadcast. But that's something that takes several hours to build throughout the week. You kind of use that as a study guide. After that, you're looking at game notes and, you know, talking to coaches, doing interviews. We do our radio and TV shows with Coach Jones throughout the course of the week. So
Right.
I consider that part of the preparation process as well, going to the press conference on Tuesday afternoon. So it's just a process of gathering information throughout the week. And yeah, there's a whole lot of hours that go into it, but in the end, it's all worth it.
It's not unlike, you know, what these young folks here are doing in their other classes in terms of like getting ready for a test, in that, you know, for him and for us, you know, the making of the chart it's really not even, it's as much so you have the chart when you need it, but you're also kind of getting the information just by making the chart. Literally putting it on there is helping you already kind of lay the groundwork to knowing it, to where like you do the work on the front end, and it's just like the game is the equivalent of the test. Well, if you've done the work on the front end, the test is going to be a lot easier to pass when you've prepared for it. And in that way, it's not a whole lot different.
You know, we do have a sports media program here on campus, one of the emphasis areas. Sports casting is one of the classes, sports production and all that. It's one of the more popular ones that we have. So a lot of people want to do what you're doing. So what advice, suggestions, tips would you give our students that are going through the sports media program that want to be the next Matt Stolz, that want to do this for college or professional teams? What tips would you give?
Well, first off, I think it's awesome that we do have this sportscasting class on campus, and I know Brad and I have both been in that class to speak to it on multiple occasions over the years, and Dustin Sullivan does a great job with that and the program. But, you know, one thing that I always mention to the students, and I know Brad thinks the same way, is get involved as much as you can in as many different ways as you can. You want to be that Swiss Army knife, if you will, and be able to be as versatile as possible and fill as many roles as possible. And you've got such a great avenue here at Arkansas State. And Brad talked about ESPN Plus and just the ability to get involved in a way that not every campus has. I mean, it's such a great program here at Arkansas State to be able to get involved in, whether you want to get involved in radio or TV. And we've got students working behind the cameras right now and back in the studio that are doing things that students at other universities don't get a chance to do.
Yeah.
So my advice is always just get involved in as many ways as you can and get that experience while you're in college.
There's some, yeah, I've always tell these people, don't turn down an opportunity. And that's period. I don't care whether they want to be on air or not. I mean, the reason this program is good is because the things you get a chance to do, the ability it gives you to be able to walk out the door and be hireable. So you have to say yes to those opportunities to do that. Now, beyond that, to these people that want to specifically call games, say, get in where you fit in. You know, and I don't mean Harding when I ask you this, but before you were the voice of the Red Wolves, you were the voice of
Harding.
But before, not
Searcy High School.
Mina
High School. Yeah.
On down the line. So, I mean, you're not owed anything. So go find your starting point. And then overall, beyond that, I'd say probably the thing I would tell them is, with the exception of maybe your mom or your grandma, nobody's listening to hear you. So don't make, you're not the show.
Yeah.
The game is, so keep it about that.
Yeah. Going back to the storytelling aspect of it, how much does the crowd play into storytelling for you?
Oh, so much. And one thing that if we really want to get into broadcasting 101 here, one thing that I'm really dedicated to is our crowd levels during our broadcast. If you're listening to a radio broadcast and there's a big play coming up, well, I'm going to turn our crowd levels up to where people that are listening can kind of feel the environment and feel just how loud the stadium is getting. And I guarantee you that's going to happen Saturday during our homecoming broadcast. When there's a big play, a third down, I'm going to turn it up and let people kind of feel the atmosphere. But yeah, the crowd, I want them to hear the crowd, but also through description and just describing the environment during our play-by-play, I think that's part of it as well. But yeah, I think the crowd tells such a big part of the story.
And also, I mean, you don't have to go back very far, right? Like during COVID, where a lot of broadcasters at some point in time were asked to do games remote.
Yeah.
And that would be absolutely terrible. I mean, like,
Yeah.
to not be there kind of immersed in that, not even just the ability to kind of see 360 degrees, but like you want to be feeling it too. I mean, it'd be hard to call a game you're not at because you can't feel the emotions inside the place. That's a awfully large ask, and I mean I get
Sure.
why. I mean it was
Right.
what it was, but
Right.
I sure am glad to see that people didn't try too long to stay kind of too cheap and just keep doing it that way, because the broadcast suffers greatly.
Before we leave, because we're about to have to get out, I want to say congratulations to my friend Matt, because not only have you done a phenomenal job with being the Red Wolves voice for 20 years, you're just a genuinely good guy. And you don't find very many genuinely good guys in this business. And Brad Bobo is the same way, just genuinely good people. So it's not, I couldn't be any happier for you that you're doing your 20th year, and I hope that you're able to do it for 20 more. So congratulations on that, my friend.
Well, I really appreciate you saying that, and I'm fortunate because I've been able to work with a lot of good people over the years, including you, Jonathan, and Brad and I have been together a really, really long time, ever since I stepped foot on campus, and it seems like yesterday when he and I and Coach Bill Keaty were traveling on the road together, and that's really how we initially bonded, was going on those road trips. And some of our very favorite memories over the years were going on those road trips with Coach Keaty, and it was something that made me fall in love with not only the football program but the university that much more. And look, I'm a Jonesboro guy now. After 20 years, I'm an Arkansas State guy, and I love just every aspect of my job and being able to work with the people I do.
Congratulations.
We've been with each other longer than we've been with our wives. Yeah, we got married 8 days apart.
We did.
Yeah.
But we've been with each other longer than those other two gals.
There you go. All right. Well, that'll do it for this edition of A-State Connections. Thank you once again so much, Matt and Brad, for joining us here today. Also want to thank the wonderful students that are doing a fantastic job here in Video 1, always running the show. Thanks to Instructor of Creative Media Production, Galen Perkins. Also, thanks to Broadcast Engineer Timmy Arquette and our Graduate Assistant Sujita Karki for their help on the show today. Also, don't forget that election 2024 coverage starts at 6 o'clock tonight with U.S. House of Representatives race for District 1. Libertarian candidate Dr. Steve Parsons and Democratic candidate Rodney Govins will face off in the debate live on ASU-TV. You can subscribe to the ASU-TV YouTube channel to get notifications of live content and future debates. And I'll see you back here at 6 o'clock tonight. Thanks for joining us, and so long, everyone.